In the final two sessions, you will discuss process cost. Reducing process cost increases profits and cash flow while reducing the impact of operations on the natural environment. Many of the activities for improving processes that have already been discussed will reduce cost. Reducing injuries will reduce labor and overhead cost. Reducing processing time, setup time, or downtime will reduce labor cost. Removing bottlenecks may reduce your labor cost. Reducing inventory will reduce labor cost and overhead cost. Reducing scrap, rework, rejects, and customer returns will reduce material and labor cost. Process costs can be broken down into two types: variable and overhead. Variable costs are costs that vary with the volume of output. Process labor cost, raw materials, supplies, outside services, or the cost of warranty returns are some examples of variable cost. Overhead costs are the cost to provide process capacity. These are costs that do not change in the short term as output changes. Building rent, insurance, depreciation, maintenance, janitorial services are some examples of overhead cost. Some costs will be partly variable and partly fixed. Some electricity will be used for lighting, which will be fixed, and some electricity may be used to run process equipment, which would be variable. Some supplies, like office supplies, may be fixed, while the consumption of production supplies may vary with output volume. Let's talk about cost reporting. Most companies already report costs at a high level in the monthly profit and loss statements. Detailed cost reporting by department or work cell may or may not be available. It will depend on how the accounting systems are set up. Invite a company accountant to present and explain the existing cost reports. Ask the operators to identify the costs that they impact. At a minimum, cost reporting should be split by variable and overhead cost. Some costs, for example electricity, will have both a variable component and a fixed component. If possible, those costs should be split and each component reported separately, so the operators can see the component that they can impact. As you progress through the workbook and improve the processes, you should expect to see both the variable and overhead costs go down. In Session 29, you will discuss ways to reduce both variable and overhead cost. As mentioned, improving the other process metrics will reduce direct labor, material, and other variable cost. Collaborating with existing suppliers or changing suppliers may be a way to reduce material or outside service cost. If you make the effort to get bids from other suppliers, you will be surprised by the savings you can find. Here is an example of a variable cost report that lists by type the amount spent for the month and calculates how much was spent per unit of output. Moving on to overhead cost. Management usually has control over most overhead cost. Again, improving your processes should reduce some overhead cost. Reduced inventory will reduce the cost of managing the inventory. Fewer problems with the processes will reduce the cost to manage the processes. Reduced waste of supplies like earplugs, safety glasses, paper towels, rags is something that the operators can impact. Ask a company accountant to prepare a 12-month running history of overhead cost, like shown below, and present to the operators. Ask the operators to identify the costs that they impact. In Class Exercise 31, the operators are asked for suggestions to reduce cost. Each operator has a different perspective, so each one may spot opportunities that no one else will notice. Prioritize the opportunities and create action items to implement. This is the end of the training sessions. Next, we will recap what we have learned and also discuss how to get started using CHITA.